Here's the truth you know, but never got round to actually taking seriously. Because you don't get better by pushing harder. No. You get better by recovering more effectively and competently, because most men train like wannabe warriors but recover like civilians, and that's why they never look like the way they think they should or deserve. If you actually want the body, the face, the presence, and the energy of elite performing men, your recovery has to become, well, elite. And I mean this with lots of love, because right now recovery is your biggest liability. I know it was for me, by the way. Your nervous system is overloaded, your sleep inconsistent, and your hormones confused and confuddled. Your training is working against you because the systems that are supposed to rebuild you are actually clinging on for dear life, like our dear friend Mufasa. You might be disciplined with your output, but your discipline is incomplete without the recovery factor, which is part of the 20 input to the 80 output principle, a principle of scientific law, by the way, so strong, even nature cannot deny it. Don't take this seriously and your testosterone has no chance, your GH pulse weakens, cortisol takes over, androgen receptors stop responding, muscles atrophy, and aesthetics, they nosedive. You can't escape biological consequences. Please, brother, if you recover like the average man, you become the average man. So we need something more dramatic, yet grounded in scientific principles, as alluded to, and natural law. Here's the part nobody tells ambitious men, because it's not flashy, it's not marketable, and it doesn't fit into a dopamine addicted lifestyle. And you knew it was coming. Sleep. But only when I understood the 80-20 did my attitude change and I actually started taking serious action on it. The Pareto principle. This describes that 20% of your actions create 80% of your results. It's why 20% of your efforts build 80% of your income, why 20% of your clients create 80% of your headaches, why 20% of your habits shape 80% of your personality. Pareto is everywhere. It's brutal, it's unavoidable, and it applies to your physiology just as ruthlessly. When it comes to recovery, sleep is the 20 that gives you the 80 outputs. It's the mark of a bumbling buffoon to engage in the ice baths and the supplements and red light therapy before your sleep system, because the former are the 80 that barely moves the needle. I mean, let me prove this to you. A single week of poor sleep drops daytime testosterone by 10 to 15%. That's more than most test boosters claim to raise. 1 week, not a month, not a lifestyle. 7 bad nights of sleep and testosterone nosedives. 20% input, 80% hormonal outcome. You can do this for everything. GH, you know 70 to 80% of your daily growth hormone is released during sleep? Not in the gym, not when you're awake, not when you're visualizing getting sucked off by Sydney Sweeney. You grow when you're unconscious. Inflammation and aesthetics. 1 night of bad sleep increases inflammation markers by 20 to 30%, which means puffier face, worse skin, flatter muscles, more water retention, worse mood, abysmal digestion. And you think your face looks bad because you had a carb day? No, it's because you got drunk, fingered your cousin, and only slept 5 hours. The former 2 points maybe notwithstanding, your muscles don't rebuild when you're training. They rebuild in the phases of sleep when cortisol drops and androgen receptor sensitivity increases. No sleep, no muscles. Now, with the Pareto principle in mind, you should be thinking, okay, Joseph, you got me. So what is the 20% inputs that will give me 80% of the outputs for higher quality sleep? And I would say, you're not just a handsome man, are you? Now you're thinking like a competent man, but don't worry about it because I already did it for you, brother. Morning lights, the circadian trigger. This is 20% input, 80% of rhythm stability. So 10 minutes of sunlight in the morning starts, or tells your brain, I should say, start the clock, release melatonin tonight. If you don't have morning light, no melatonin rhythm, catastrophic sleep. And this one seemingly insignificant action of getting up early, walking and experiencing the warm sun on your face it controls most of your sleep drive. I didn't know this next one, but did you know caffeine has a life of 6 hours? Drink it at 3 p.m. and 25% is still in your system at midnight. That molests your deep sleep. Cut the caffeine afternoon, 80% of caffeine-related sleep problems solved instantly. Cold room, that's another really interesting deep sleep switch. Your body has to drop its temperature to enter deep sleep. Warm room equals shallow sleep. 18 to 20 degrees Celsius fixes it. Cheap, easy, massive input. And of course, no screens 60 minutes before bed. I mean, blue light isn't bad per se, but it is melatonin child abuse if melatonin were a child. 1 hour without screens gives you the most benefit of a perfect night routine. Just read a book, meditate, plan to overthrow your government or journal. And then, of course, keeping the sleep time consistent. If your sleep time is chaotic, then so are your hormones. Testosterone, GH, cortisol, or sluffer. One stable window, 80% of your hormonal stability. Fix your sleep and your hormones fall in line like biological soldiers. Testosterone up, GH up, cortisol down, inflammation down, androgen sensitivity up. Oh, and the benefits, the aesthetic effects of your face, I'll get to that in just a moment. So that's the 80-20 of biology, the smallest change producing the most profound transformation. But let's pivot. If you pivot with me, most men don't fail because they train poorly. They fail because their nervous system is kind of French fried. They live in this permanent sympathetic overload, rushing, grinding, highly stimulated, never downshifting, and expecting their body to rebuild itself in a state designed for running from predators. That literally is it. Recovery only happens in the parasympathetic response state, where your body believes the danger is actually gone, just like sleep. Nervous system recovery follows the 80-20 rule. 20% of the right practices deliver 80% of your benefits in this regard. And here are the highest leverage nervous system triggers with the science behind why they're more effective than the fluff. Number one has to be breath work, the fastest parasympathetic switch. 2 minutes of extended exhales. Breathing drops your cortisol and your heart rate and tells your brain you're safe. This isn't spirituality, by the way. This is just manipulating your vagus nerve on command with slow breathing, extended exhales, increasing vagal tone, reducing cortisol by 20% in minutes, by the way. For those of you interested, by the way, I have an extensive library of guided breathwork sessions on Patreon, but no doubt you can find some similar on YouTube for free. We should also discuss the deep recovery shortcut known as NSDR, non-sleep deep rest, I believe it is abbreviated from. It's not meditation or breathwork, it's guided body-based neural downshifting. It's an introspective exercise which might include body scanning and limb release. You might lie on your back, sit reclined, close your eyes, and contract the muscle lightly, and then release it fully. And this sequence moves from your head all the way down to your toes. Good way to go to sleep, by the way. It kind of mimics the neurological transitions of early sleep in that way, the theta brainwave, lowered muscle tone, decreased sympathetic arousal. It's physical, not mental, and it triggers that recovery mode extremely efficiently. Studies actually show that NSDR protocols increase dopamine receptor sensitivity by 65%. Lower stress markers, enhanced sleep depth. It's very good. Slow walking. Since we already talked actually about walking within sleep, I'll just say this. Morning sunlight boosts serotonin, which is the precursor to melatonin, reduces evening cortisol, and increases overall sleep depth, which, as prefaced, is the foundation of recovery. Now let's talk about masturbation, which is the part that most men avoid. I mean, they don't avoid masturbating, they avoid talking about it, but it's destroying your nervous system. The irony is most men think that jerking off actually relaxes them, but porn and compulsive masturbation create a dopamine roller coaster that disrupts your reward circuitry, overstimulates your nervous system, and keeps your brain permanently searching for that novelty. This is a sympathetic state, not a recovery state. What happens? Your dopamine crashes, motivation drops, your sleep worsens, stress response increases, androgen receptors become less responsive, training feels harder, recovery feels slower. It's not good. You're basically diddling your neurotransmitters and expecting your body to perform like, hey, nothing happened. Scientifically speaking, excessive sexual stimulation has been shown to desensitize dopamine receptor pathways, increase stress hormone output, and reduce parasympathetic tone, which directly impairs recovery, sleep latency, and hormonal stability. By the way, this doesn't mean no sex. It just means avoiding the high dopamine fireworks show of artificial sexual novelty that can, well, that your biology, just can't regulate. Adult material is a nervous system stimulant, and you can't recover in a stimulated mode. It just doesn't happen. So let's talk load management. Not that kind of load. I meant training load. Easy to get confused with in the transition. So here's an unforgettable truth. You're not plateauing because you're weak. You're plateauing because you're mismanaging your load. Or the load, I should say. You're doing too much volume, too much frequency, too much kind of junk fatigue, and not enough structured stimulus. Men copy influencers who are on so much gear that they're practically walking pharmacies and wonder why their natural body collapses under the same workload. They're taking trend. They give that shit to cows. So there's merit in training less and growing more, the 80-20 stimulus principle. Training follows its own Pareto rule. I mean, really think about that. 20% of the sets you do create 80% of your muscle growth. Those are your heavy, high tension, close to failure sets. Everything else, noise, inflammation, fatigue, masquerading as a progress, by the way. The average guy trains, well, maybe not average guy, but the guy who's training 5 to 6 days a week and spends most of that time accumulating pointless volume that his recovery system just can't handle. More elite naturals, if those two things are commensurate, yes, they are. 3 to 4 hard sessions per week, every rep with intention, every set building strength, not ego. Hypertrophy research actually shows that sets taken to or close to failure, high mechanical tension, I should say, drive the most anabolic signaling, while excess volume increases cortisol, fatigue, minimal added growth. So there you go. In this way, there's a lot of merit for deloading. Now, most men never deload until they're injured. They wait for pain to be their karmic teacher. But elite performers deload before they actually hit that wall. Now, a deload isn't weakness, by the way. It's strategic recovery. It resets the nervous system, reduces accumulated fatigue, and it amplifies the next block of training. Think of it like sharpening a blade. You don't wait until the blade snaps. Studies on periodization training actually show greater strength and hypertrophy gains when planned reductions in volume or intensity occur every kind of 4 to 6 weeks due to the neuromuscular efficiency and recovery. And in that way, I think we should talk about prehab as well. Men love brutal training, but neglect the boring mobility and stability work that prevents injuries and maintains performance. Now, prehab is kind of the 80-20 of injury prevention. 20% of targeted work avoids 80% of the problems. Every elite athlete does prehab. It's non-negotiable. You don't need long routines. You need strategic, high-impact movements. I mean, I've personally found in my clinical work many, many years ago that the majority of my clients needed the following. They needed glute activation. So this is the engine of gait, posture, lifting, sprinting. If this is off, everything collapses. They need to look at hip mobility, the joint with the biggest payoff. Stiff hips, stolen power, stolen stability, stolen aesthetics. Third, you've got to talk about scapular rotator cuff strengthening. So this protects your shoulders from 90% of dumb gym mistakes, essential for pressing, pulling, posture, and longevity. 4, you can maybe talk about ankle dorsiflexion, fixing squats, fixing knee stress, fixing walking as well. But look, this stuff isn't glamorous. It's not exciting, but it keeps you training long enough to actually look and perform the way that you want. Here's the scientific punchline. Injury prevention studies show that targeted stability and mobility work reduces soft tissue injuries by 30 to 50% and increases force production through improved joint alignment and neuromuscular control. You don't want to end up mildly broken like me at the moment. Now, everything we've covered so far is foundational. Sleep, nervous system, load management as well. These are the kind of laws of biologies. Peptides are not the foundation. They are amplifiers. They don't replace discipline. I suppose they magnify it in many ways. This is the part of recovery where things get, well, maybe a little darker, a little bit more advanced, and a lot more powerful when used intelligently and sparingly. Now, I'll discuss two that I have had personal experience with one added that has some scientific merit behind it. The first was MK677. Now, this is not a steroid. It is a ghrelin receptor agonist that stimulates your pituitary to release more growth hormone and IGF-1. Why should you care about it? Well, because growth hormone is the master of hormone repair. Deeper sleep, stronger tissue repair, improved collagen synthesis, better fat loss, higher IGF-1, which drives muscular regeneration, by the way. It's incredibly effective, but not magic. Again, this isn't a steroid. It raises DH and IGF-1 levels significantly in human trials, with some studies actually showing up to 60% increase in IGF-1 after consistent use. Now, BPC-157 is the closest thing we have to a healing compound that actually lives up to the mythos. It accelerates tendon repair, ligament healing, gut lining regeneration, soft tissue recovery, inflammation reduction as well, which is why athletes absolutely adore it. This is why men with chronic shoulder, elbow, or knee pain swear by it and appropriately named it the body protection compound. In animals and human adjacent models, BPC-157 has demonstrated accelerated healing of ligaments, tendons, and intestinal tissue through increased angiogenesis and fibroblast activity. It doesn't turn you into Wolverine, but it does help prevent injuries from turning into long-term setbacks. I actually experimented with both of these when I slipped my L3, L4 disc in my back, along with some correlated hip pain, with some success, I will say. But again, more ligament stuff than disc. Now, when your recovery is elite, your appearance transforms in ways that training alone can never achieve. Not a little better, not slightly leaner. I'm talking about a complete physiological overhaul, shift in how your body presents itself to the world. Ruminate on this idea with me. Recovery is what makes you look like you're actually training. Let me show you exactly what changes. Fuller, denser muscles. When you apply the 80-20 to your recovery, your muscles don't just grow. They fill out, rounder, tighter, more water inside the muscle, not underneath the skin, in the muscle. More glycogen stored, more tone without trying. This is the difference between I lift sometimes and looking like you lift even when you're wearing a t-shirt. Deep sleep and proper recovery equals higher GH, meaning better glycogen storage, improved sarcoplasmic volume, which gives you that kind of that full aesthetic bodybuilder kind of look. The second effect is the face is going to start to tighten up. The masculine bone structure returns because most men look, soft, inflamed, underslept, not because body fat, but because of cortisol, stress, poor sleep, and fried dopamine. Elite recovery does the antithesis of it. It reduces that inflammation, brings down that cortisol, which clears facial puffiness, sharpens the jawline. It even actually brightens the eyes a little bit, tightens the skin, and evens out the skin texture and complexion. You literally look more masculine as a consequence of just being more healthy. Lower cortisol, deeper sleep, better lymphatic drainage, higher androgen expression, clearer, sharper facial structure. And then the fat, it changes where it's stored, where it's distributed. When recovery improves, your insulin sensitivity rises, meaning your thyroid stabilizes. So when this happens, you don't just lose fat, you lose it in those stubborn places. Lower belly, stress fat, poor sleep fat, shitty recovery fat. Fixed recovery and fat stores come off the areas that make your physique kind of look kind of sloppy. And then your posture changes, and then your presence changes. Recovery makes everything feel lighter. Your joints hurt less, your CNS fires properly, your body isn't fighting itself. That means your shoulders are sitting back, the traps aren't tight chronically, the core stabilizes, your hips open up a little bit more, and the spine starts to decompress. You stop looking so tense, constipated, and compressed. I'm serious. Half the guys I see nowadays look like they're about to lay a prehistoric ostrich egg. So we want less systemic fatigue and more tissue, repair, which improves muscular or neuromuscular, I should say, coordination and stronger muscles. When you master your recovery, your entire biology just shifts, guys. Fuller muscles, sharper features, calmer mind, stronger presence. This is how you activate your highest masculine expression. And if you want to go deeper into the hormones and the gene level mechanics behind it, you can grab my book, Masculine Gene Expression, in the link below. No theories, facts. Speak soon.